Hey guys, welcome to Solo ReacTalk. Today I'm going to be reacting to the Adeptus Astartes Space Marines Warhammer 40,000 by the Templin Institute. And yeah, if you want to check out other reactions that I've done to Warhammer content, remember the playlist card will be at the top. Just click on it and you'll be able to access it. Yeah, I haven't been with the Templin Institute for a very long time now. I think the last video I watched was another Warhammer 40k video on, I think it was the Astra Militarum, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it was the Astra Militarum. That was the last time I reacted to a Templin Institute video. So now we're dealing with the Adeptus Astartes. Let's start. 3, 2, 1, go.
In the grim darkness of the...
Wait, before we begin, sorry. I know the soundtrack. They used it in the Stellaris Invicta episodes for the Greater Terran Union. This soundtrack, I like it.
far future, the age of the Imperium is over. Across the universe, a death knell has sounded, for the time of ending has begun. On countless worlds, billions perish in carnage and slaughter, to the laughter of thirsting gods. Ancient evils awaken in the forgotten depths, assailing themselves against what few foundations of humanity remain. Everywhere in which the light of the Imperium now fades,
What kind of gun does that to someone? Did you see that guy? He was just disintegrating. Oh gosh.
a multitude of horrors gather, awaiting the time when the last bastions are broken and the great massacre of mankind can begin. Few remember there was once a time, slowly forgotten with each passing day, when the God Emperor walked among humanity, together with his sons. A brief moment when all the terrors of the galaxy might have been cast aside, and a new golden age willed into existence from the darkness of the old. Reason and compassion might have prevailed over superstition and tyranny, but the triumphs of the Emperor and the great crusade he led are gone, never to return. Yet, even in his deathless state, the Emperor continues his eternal vigilance. Mighty battle fleets cross the demon-infested miasma of the warp, guided by the psychic manifestation of the Emperor's light. For every step taken on a world claimed by the Imperium, the enemies of mankind face the massed guns of the Imperial Guard, the holy fires of the Ecclesiarchy, or the eldritch machines of Mars. Armies all that fight and die in the Emperor's name. Yet on some battlefields, the most critical to the Imperium's survival, grotesque Xenos empires and traitors in service to the ruinous powers face annihilation by nothing less than the Emperor's will made manifest. They are his angels of death, descending from crackling skies, announced by terrible thunder. They are his finest warriors, molded like clay in the furnace of war. They are of iron will and steely muscle, in great armor clad with the mightiest guns armed. They are untouched by disease and sickness. They are the bulwark against the terror. They are the defenders of humanity. They are the Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines, and they shall know no fear.
Wait, those green guns, they belong to the Necroids? Necron tier? Wow, okay.
Amongst the myriad of institutions that make war in the Emperor's name, the Astartes are counted among the most elite and battle-hardened. They make use of weapons, tanks, aircraft, and artillery, often more advanced, but not entirely dissimilar to those common within Imperial armies. Instead, their true strength lies in their soldiery. Every Space Marine has been genetically enhanced through the lost arts of genecraft to become something more than human. They are stronger, faster, and more resilient, capable of martial feats that would be impossible otherwise. Together, these warriors are organized into chapters, 1,000 of which are said to currently exist, though the true number is impossible to verify. A chapter of the Adeptus Astartes is an entirely independent and self-sufficient army. Each is a highly mobile, flexible force expected to excel on any kind of battlefield against any kind of enemy. A chapter encompasses a primary fighting element consisting of the Astartes themselves, and an auxiliary element, administrative personnel, logisticians, and the fleet of warships and transports that keep the chapter mobile and operating at peak efficiency.
Yeah, sorry about this. I had to stop it here because I just saw some Astartes there that were fighting. I don't know where exactly, but there was one just coming out of the smoke, like some sort of train. Like he just kept moving and shooting at the same time. That was frightening a bit. Yeah, that was really frightening. I mean, imagine facing up against these guys, and this guy just comes walking in out of the smoke like that.
Latter supportive elements might include some Astartes who have been assigned to non-combative roles, but are otherwise overwhelmingly staffed by chapter serfs. These are unmodified humans who for any number of reasons have become indentured servants of the chapter.
Yeah, I remember Lutin09 telling me about this in one of his videos called The Creation of a Space Marine. Yeah.
Every aspect of a chapter's organization, function, and fighting ability is expected to adhere to the Codex Astartes, the foundational work concerning Space Marine doctrine. The Codex requires a chapter to be split into 10 companies of 100 Marines. The 2nd through 5th companies are referred to as the battle companies and constitute the majority of the chapter's fighting strength. Each is led by a captain with 2 subordinate lieutenants, and includes a chaplain responsible for the company's spiritual welfare. Additionally, an Astartes within every battle company will be appointed the title of champion, expected to protect the captain with his life, while another will be named ancient and granted the honor of bearing the company standard.
Recently I've been watching Counterpoint's reactions to the Blood Angels, and you know the regiments, the structure of the Astartes that the Templin Institute is talking about. I do see it in the show Blood Angels. It's just that the flag bearer, I haven't seen the flag bearer in Blood, the Angels of Death. Sorry, the Angels of Death. Yes, I haven't seen the flag bearer there. So I'm just wondering, is the flag bearer always essential in a company led by a captain and his lieutenants? Is a flag bearer always required? And I remember seeing a flag bearer in Hell's Reach as well for Grimaldus. So yeah, it's quite interesting.
The remainder of the company's Marines are divided into 10 squads. 6 forming the main battle line, 2 providing close support, and 2 providing fire support. An array of transport vehicles is maintained by individual battle companies, ensuring its entire strength can be rapidly moved across the battlefield when required. In addition to their battlefield role, the captain of each company is granted a number of titles and duties traditionally associated with the company he leads. These might be purely ceremonial or critical to the continued operation of the chapter. The captain of the 2nd company is the master of the watch. The 3rd company captain is the master of the arsenal. The 4th company captain is the master of the fleet, and the 5th company captain is the master of the marches. Chapter companies 6 through 9 are designated companies of reserve. When a battle company suffers losses in battle, it is from these formations that their replacements will be drawn. Unlike the mixed squad compositions of the battle companies, the 6th and 7th each maintain 10 standard battle line squads. The 8th and 9th consist solely of close support and fire support respectively. Squads from the reserve companies will often be assigned to serve alongside the battle companies, while in larger campaigns an entire reserve company might fight as a whole.
And each chapter has around 1,000 Space Marines, right? That's been divided into these different companies. Okay.
Impromptu task forces at various levels of strength are repeatedly created from component elements of the reserve companies, depending on the requirements and unique characteristics of the battlefield. Leadership of the reserve companies is largely identical to that of the battle companies, with each including a captain, lieutenants, chaplain, and ancient. Like their counterparts, these captains are each assigned additional roles and duties. The captains of the 6th through 9th companies are the Master of the Rites, the Chief Victualler, the Lord Executioner, and the Master of Relics. Their duties are mainly centered around chapter logistics and the codification of its traditions and customs. The 10th company is unique within the chapter, in that its members have yet to be fully transformed into Astartes. Known as the Scout Company, the 10th is a formation in which raw aspirants learn the methods of war utilized by the chapter and gain vital experience. It is in many ways one of the final means by which a potential Astartes is trained, under the intense pressure only a real battlefield can provide. Once a scout has proven themselves here, they will undergo the final stages of their transformation and be assigned to one of the other companies. The first company of an Astartes chapter is its most elite military unit. Its warriors have mastered every battlefield role after decades of service within the Scout, Reserve, and Battle companies. They are the exemplars of the chapter's strength, with each of its members having performed some legendary deed of bravery or genius. The first company is rarely deployed as a whole, with the entire formation only fighting together during the most dire of circumstances. Instead, individual squads from this company are attached to other Space Marine strike forces, acting as mentors and examples to their fellow Marines. These veteran squads are less constrained by rigid doctrine, allowed at their discretion to deploy with weapons and armor best suited towards close combat or ranged engagements. In most cases, access to the chapter's Terminator armor, a rare and ancient form of protection, will be granted to the first company alone. Existing outside of the company structure are a number of varied, smaller units and institutions. The Armory is responsible for maintenance of the chapter's vehicles and warsuits. It is staffed mainly by chapter serfs, mindless robotic servitors, specialist Astartes known as Tech Marines, and commanded by the Master of the Forge. The Librarius is a repository of information, home to the chapter's most sacred artifacts, trophies, and texts. It is tended by the Librarians, powerful psychers who now bend the warp itself to the benefit of their chapter and brothers.
Yeah, I think I remember a librarian in, what was it again? With the Tyranids. Behemoth, yes. The show called Behemoth on YouTube. I remember there was a librarian with Inquisitor Critman. Yeah. He looks similar to this librarian that we're seeing right now here, with his psychic abilities and warp abilities. Yeah.
It is overseen by the chapter's chief librarian. The chaplaincy tests and inspires the loyalty of their brothers, performing rituals and ceremonies as dictated by the Master of Sanctity or his immediate subordinate, the Reclusiarch. The Apothecarian manages the health of the chapter, but the highest duty of its chief apothecary.
The only Reclusiarch I know is Grimaldus, and that's the only one that I'll ever know, I think. You know, like his name and him, you know, his personality is edged in my mind. Like, I can never forget that guy.
Is the preservation of the chapter's gene seed, the only means through which new Astartes might be created. The Armory, Librarius, Reclusium, and Apothecarian might temporarily or permanently assign members of their ranks to companies or squads, providing field repairs, psychic powers, fanatical zeal, or medical care, respectively. Above every other institution is Chapter Command, officers and specialists who form the headquarters staff. They are led by the Chapter Master, the supreme authority from which all others derive. These individuals are paragons of warfare and logistics, capable of directing strategy and immediately reacting to every threat and opportunity that presents itself. The arrival of a chapter master can be enough to turn an imminent defeat into a great victory, so complete is their understanding and ability. Within the greater Imperium, chapter masters possess enormous personal authority. In addition to the complete command they wield over their chapter, masters can requisition entire star systems or assume control over most other Imperial military units. Above all, it is by their order alone that their chapter is deployed. To conduct warfare anywhere in the galaxy, the Codex Astartes allows for each chapter to possess its own fleet. Many chapters, typically the oldest and most established, make use of battle barges, specialized battleships uniquely suited towards boarding actions. These are often the largest vessels utilized by a chapter and are the flagship of their fleet. Strike cruisers and frigates make up much of the remainder of the fleet. While they are all powerful warships in their own right, ultimately their first responsibility is to bear the chapter into war, and therefore are most often used in line-breaking, blockade running, and planetary assaults. In rare instances...
Okay, so vessels like the strike cruisers that the Adeptus Astartes use, they're not mainly used on the front line of battle. Like, you won't see them fighting against other vessels. You mainly see them orbiting planets, bombarding planets, and also dropping Astartes down to the surface. You won't necessarily see them fighting ship-to-ship battles like the rest of the Imperial Navy. Okay.
A chapter might operate from their fleet alone, constantly roving across the galaxy. These cases notwithstanding, most operate a permanent headquarters located on a homeworld. This planet, moon, or even asteroid exists under the authority of the chapter alone, and is the primary site in which training, recruitment, and rearming occurs. In some instances, the homeworld is just one among many planets that a chapter controls. As the Imperium continues to fracture, a growing number of worlds have ceded their authority over to Space Marine chapters, providing recruits and serfs in exchange for protection.
Isn't that kind of wrong? I mean, the Adeptus Astartes are not supposed to be in the leadership role of, governing an entire sector of star systems or something like that. Their main objective and purpose is to be the Emperor's instrument against the darkness, against the Xeno threat, against the chaos threat, or internal threats. They're not really meant to be the governors and, the hired help to the rest of the galaxy, if I can say that. Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Independent, flexible nature of the Space Marines is anticipated within the Codex Astartes. Small deviations are acceptable within a chapter's practices and organization to accommodate local traditions and culture. It is not uncommon for a chapter's ranks and titles to incorporate or have been replaced by those used on their homeworld. Sometimes these variances extend to the role of chapter master or the autonomy permitted to their captains. Many chapters have come to excel in a particular aspect of war and outfit their companies to reflect that. Through such nuances, it is possible that two Codex-compliant chapters might appear entirely different from one another in their customs and nomenclature. Some chapters, however, have diverged so thoroughly from the Codex Astartes that their organization and capabilities are now entirely unique. These non-Codex-compliant chapters might be the result of an intentional deviation, or have occurred naturally over the millennia without any explicit motive.
But I think that's actually kind of good, having a diversity of structure and the way they instigate missions or activate missions on different planets, or how they operate as a unit. Is totally different from other Astartes chapters. Just like on Hell's Reach, on Hell's Reach, how the Salamanders and the Black Templars didn't see eye to eye in terms of how they should deal with the Orc threat on Armageddon. The Salamanders mainly focused on protecting the civilians and also following their orders explicitly, whatever they were meant to be doing. While the Black Templars, their main focus was, destroying the Orcs, making sure that they destroy the war boss, they attain glory at any cost. And, they had differences in how they wanted to operate on the battlefield. But I think in the end, it's still a very good thing to have that, so that your enemy doesn't predict you. Doesn't predict how you're going to act, doesn't predict how you're going to move as a unit. If they see other units of Astartes acting differently from you, then they wouldn't know where to stand or how to operate on this situation. So yeah, I kind of see it as a good advantage.
Often these aberrations are overlooked, although the reputation of the chapter might suffer as a result. In some extreme circumstances, a chapter that has wildly departed from the structure of the Codex might be labelled heretical and marked for destruction. Therefore, non-Codex compliant chapters have at times attempted to conceal their true nature. The Codex Astartes has attempted to standardize the chapters, but their variances are inherent to their biology. Every Space Marine is created using the gene seed of their respective Primarch, 20 immortal, superhuman generals and statesmen, themselves crafted by the Emperor of Man during the earliest days of the Imperium. Through the surgical integration of 19 additional organs, a normal human adolescent male is turned into the transhuman Astartes, but the process also imbues them with certain qualities and aspects of their respective Primarch. Their physical appearance might be altered, or they might become predisposed towards specific feelings, thoughts, and methods. Since the creation of the Primarchs, the Imperium has lost the ability to create new gene seed, and must instead cultivate what already exists. Therefore, each chapter must carefully preserve their respective gene seed, often harvesting organs from their fallen brothers. In many cases, chapters are no longer able to replicate all 19 organs and must perform the transformation without them, leading to missing or lessened abilities. Additionally, the gene seed has begun to deteriorate over the millennia, and mutations can occur during the replication process.
Okay, when the narrator talks about the gene seed is deteriorating, which one? Because I know there's like 9 different legions that have now turned traitor, right? And from those 9 legions, there's the chapters that have disseminated from those legions. And so what I'm asking is that how many of these gene seeds from these different chapters have been corrupted or are degrading over time, and how many can still be saved from such a situation from occurring.
Individual Astartes and sometimes entire chapters can be afflicted by these mutations, some of which have been known to be so severe that none have survived them. In other instances, mutations might be merely superficial or actually lead to beneficial and desired abnormalities. The creation of a new Space Marine chapter occurs by the Edict of the High Lords of Terror and is part of a larger grouping known as a founding. There is no defined interval between foundings. Several may occur in a decade and then a millennium before the next. But each is a massive undertaking, requiring the resources of many hundreds of worlds, most notably Mars, which plays an essential role in creating the gene seed samples from which these new chapters will be based. Foundings can be particularly noteworthy or infamous, and often demonstrate the rampant deficiencies within Imperial records. It is common for chapters derived from the gene seed of the same Primarch to feel a sense of kinship for one another. Those created during the first founding by the hand of the Emperor himself are usually considered the first among equals. Others might actively distance themselves from their brother chapters, while others still might have lost all records from which Primarch they were created. Under such circumstances, it is impossible to construct an accurate history of the Space Marines beyond the most foundational of events. The Astartes were originally organized under 20 legions, each many times the size of a modern chapter, and used to pacify Terra as part of the Unification Wars. Among their first duties was the destruction of their immediate predecessors, the Thunder Warriors, who had begun to suffer a catastrophic biological failure. These legions then spearheaded the great...
That's a lie. That's a lie. They weren't suffering some sort of genetical catastrophic failure. We know the truth. But of course I won't say it here because it's heretical and I don't want to die. So, yeah.
Great Crusade, slowly bringing the Emperor back into contact with the Primarchs, who had been scattered across the galaxy by the machinations of the ruinous powers. Once united, the Primarchs led their legions in the reconquest of the galaxy, bringing hundreds of thousands of star systems under Imperial control. By the end of the Great Crusade, 2 of the legions had been expunged from Imperial records, along with their respective Primarchs. The circumstances of their erasure have never been disclosed, but might have been a warning of the tragedy to come that would tear the Imperium apart. During the Horus Heresy, a full half of the remaining legions fell into the thrall of chaos, igniting a 9-year war that would devastate the galaxy and result in the internment of the Emperor upon the Golden Throne. While the Imperium narrowly emerged victorious over the traitor legions, the conflict made apparent the inherent danger of placing so many Astartes under the command of a single soul. To prevent another civil war of such scope, Rabute Guilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines, penned the Codex Astartes. Its most lasting and resented decree was that the legions be divided and reorganized into smaller 1,000 Marine chapters. Eventually, the other surviving Loyalist Primarchs agreed. Their 9 legions, the Dark Angels under Lionel Johnson, the White Scars under Jagatai Khan, the Space Wolves under Lehman Russ, the Imperial Fists under Rogel Dawn, the Salamanders under Vulcan, the Raven Guard under Corvus Corax, the Blood Angels and Iron Hands under the fallen Primarchs Sanguinius and Ferrus Manus respectively, together with Guilliman's own Ultramarines, all were broken down into smaller brotherhoods. One by one, the Primarchs disappeared into legend, but their chapters endured throughout the bloody age of the Imperium. Their number waxed and waned across the millennia. Terrible wars left many on the verge of destruction, and others were annihilated outright. Successive foundings swelled their ranks again, but also brought new mutations and peculiarities. Only now, in an era feared as the time of ending, have the Adeptus Astartes undergone a bold new evolution. In the days following the Horus Heresy, at the direction of Rabute Guilliman, the priesthood of Mars set to work improving on the Emperor's original designs. 10,000 years they toiled, and now with Guilliman revived from his stasis and leading the Imperium as its new regent, the efforts of Mars have finally borne fruit. The Primaris Astartes are a new breed of Space Marine, capable of greater feats than any that came before. The Ultima founding has deployed dozens of new chapters of such warriors across the galaxy, and every preceding chapter has been reinforced with Primaris Marines. Most critically, methods have been devised so that every Astartes might undergo the transformation to become Primaris themselves. Not all have survived, but the enhanced capabilities of those that do have justified the inherent risk. Their introduction.
So this Primaris Astartes are like version 2 of the original Astartes. Okay, alright. At least I think Rabute Guilliman is not going to be killing off the Astartes, you know, like how his father did with the Thunder Warriors. At least he's not going to do that, yeah.
Action has brought the first substantial revisions to the Codex Astartes itself, transforming the methods by which the Space Marines make war. The Primaris Astartes were forged for use in mankind's darkest hour, an hour that has now finally arrived. But however greatly they differ from the firstborn Astartes that once set forth across the galaxy during the Great Crusade, their purpose remains unchanged. They are pure of heart and strong of body, untainted by doubt and unsullied by self-aggrandizement.
I don't know about any of that, because why do you need a chaplain then? If you're of pure of heart and you have no doubt in yourself and you know you have this mental fortitude, why do you need a chaplain to tell you stay strong, keep fighting, and you know and keep pure and believe in the Emperor's word and everything like that? Why do you need a chaplain? I heard that line from Counterpoints when Counterpoints was asking this, like, why do they need a chaplain if there are all of these grand things, you know, as a person? Why do they need a chaplain? For what? But anyways, we continue.
They are bright stars on the firmament of battle, angels of death, whose shining wings bring swift annihilation to the enemies of men. So it shall be for 1,000 times, for 1,000 years, unto the very end of eternity, and the extinction of mortal flesh.
Where is that?
The Templin Institute investigates the nations, factions, and organizations of alternate worlds. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to join the Templin Institute, consider pledging to our Patreon page. Along with increased security access, you'll be able to vote in polls to determine future topics, get custom wallpaper every week, and receive some other exclusive rewards.
Okay guys, that was the Adeptus Astartes Space Marines Warhammer 40,000 by the Templin Institute. Yes, the Astartes and their different structures of operation. I think it was a good thing that Rubrita Guilliman instituted in after the Horus Heresy, you know, to further decentralize the power that the Primarchs had. Because, you know, after what happened with the Horus Heresy, it's been complete and utter chaos, really. A single Primarch holding so much power, not only the Astartes, but also fleets of vessels in space, you know, and, you know, to make sure that something similar does not happen again, or should it actually happen again, at least that Primarch or those Space Marines won't have the kind of power that they had during the times of the Crusade, the Great Crusade. So yeah, I agree with what Guilliman had to do here by decentralizing the power of the Astartes. And yeah, some of these regiments and structures of the Astartes chapters, I've seen it in Hell's Reach, and I'm seeing it right now in what is it called again? Angels of Death. Yes. The many structures like the Chaplain, the Ancient, not the Champion though. The Champion, I haven't seen the Champion in Hell's Reach or in the Angels of Death. I haven't seen the Champion, you know, the one that protects the Captain. Yeah, I haven't seen that kind of person yet. I've seen the Captain and his 2 lieutenants in not in Hell's Reach, but in Angels of Death. I've seen something akin to that. If you guys know about Angels of Death, then you know what I'm talking about. And yeah, the flag bearer, the Ancient. I've seen such a person in Hell's Reach, but I have not seen that person in Angels of Death. So I'm just wondering whether is it really essential for each company to have a flag bearer? Is it really necessary? Because what I know from Hell's Reach is that flag bearers cannot let go of the flag. They have to keep it up, no matter what the cost. So even if they're being attacked by enemy forces, they still have to carry it. They still have to make sure that it's stood upright and not falling to the floor, not waning side to side, you know. So they're handicapped. They can only fight with one arm and use their bolter gun or their battle knives, you know, against the enemy. And I think out of anybody in any company, their job is one of the hardest, you know. Their job really is one of the hardest. And yeah, it's quite interesting to see how from the legions that were created during the times of the Unification Wars and the Great Crusade have now dwindled down or been disseminated into chapters, you know, having at least 100 Marines in each company, 10 companies, at least 100 Marines from those 1,000 chapters. So yeah, it's quite interesting to see how things have turned out. And also to hear that there's a new version of Space Marine called the Primaris Space Marines or Primaris Astartes. Like I said before, I'm actually glad that Guilliman is not actually, you know, killing off the older version Astartes. He's keeping them on. He's making sure that they can also become Primaris Astartes. I'm still trying to figure out what is the advantage of being a Primaris Astartes. Is the gene seed less likely to be corrupted? Is the gene seed more adaptable to other human beings, not just a specific type of human being? I'm just wondering about that. Like, can anyone now become an Astartes from this gene seed of the Primaris Astartes? Or is it still difficult? Yeah. And I'm just wondering also with the cohesion of Space Marines in terms of the companies, when it involves these Primaris Astartes, do they work well together? Do they gel together, even though they don't share the same gene seed? Like the ones from the Primaris Astartes, I don't know who is their genetic father to say, because we know who the original Astartes genetic fathers are. It's the Primarchs. So who's the genetic father for the Primaris Astartes? And will they gel with their brothers, especially those who are joining Astartes regiments that still have that strong feeling, that strong connection with their Primarchs? Do they work together well? Yeah, that's what I want to know. Okay guys, that's it. If you liked the video, remember to give me a like, comment and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos, and I will see you next time. Okay, bye bye.